Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Property Doctor podcast with me, your host, Dr. Andrew Threadgold. This week, I've got a good friend of mine on the podcast, Jon Puleston-Jones. Now, some of you might remember Jon from his first appearance on the podcast about a year ago. Well, things have moved on for him since then, and he's like a silent assassin doing very interesting things in the property space, is Jon. He goes about his business completely kind of quietly, doesn't make a big splash, but he picks off his goals one by one like a nighttime assassin through one of them scope things. Anyway, he's a really good bloke, is Jon. Like I say, he's a good pal of mine. We share a lot together. I help him with his stuff and he helps me with mine. We keep each other on track, and he's doing some really impressive things, as you'll see through this podcast. With my own stuff, I know I've not provided an update for a while. Got quite a lot going on at the moment. In the property space, we've got 5 properties in conveyancing at the moment, all at various stages coming out of the conveyancing pipeline. Our main development site, which is in a place called Norton, is going very well. It's a massive build. That's a lot of work gone into this property, and it's turning out really well. So I'm really excited about that. And then we'll move on to the next, which is the next Liberty site. So if you don't know, Liberty Stays is one of our brands, one of our businesses that provides the region's only truly luxury properties for people with mobility issues or disabilities, but it's also used for normal, in inverted commas, able-bodied people to enjoy as well. And we get a 50-50 mix of who uses it. Everybody loves it, and it's just the way we design it. That's our USP for that kind of thing. So the next Liberty site, is just coming out of conveyancing, hopefully by the end of the month, and then we can move on to that. It's another massive development. Like I say, we've got another 3-4 in the pipeline apart from that one, currently in conveyancing. So that's quite interesting. On the business front, I've got 3-4 businesses from various different sectors on the boil. Some of them I'm very, very confident in, but I've learnt from the previous kind of 6 months not to be too hopeful or not to put too much emotional energy into them, because what I think is an amazing deal for the seller may not agree with that. And it's all about expectations, and kind of it takes two to tango in the business acquisition space. So if it works for one party and not the other, then the deal falls over, and that's the top and bottom of it. But I've got a few that I'm really excited about there in various sectors, from healthcare to kind of the trucking industry, which I know is not trucks themselves, but the maintenance of trucks. So that's really interesting, and that's keeping me busy too. So got lots going on, an awful lot in the pipeline, and Jon has a similar tale to tell, as you'll see in this episode. So anyway, that's enough from me. As I say, I'm going to try and get some more content out around the stuff that we're doing, not just the podcasts. But it's difficult for me, but I'll try my best. So just keep bearing with me. But for now, please enjoy the podcast. Give Jon a follow if you don't already, because he's a real good top bloke. All right, thanks very much. See you next time.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Property Doctor podcast with me, your host, Dr. Andrew Threadgold. This week, I would like to reintroduce a guest of the podcast from season 1, a very good friend of mine who I tell all my secrets to. And to be honest, that's probably as big an endorsement as I could ever give anybody. So without further ado, how are you doing, Jon?
I'm good. Thank you very much. That was a very nice introduction. I feel very flattered.
Well, yeah. So for those followers of the podcast that probably heard you in season 1, you and I have become really good friends over the past year, or however long it's been. And Jon and I are, sure you won't mind me saying, we're accountability partners, and we meet regularly and discuss what we're doing and keep each other on track. And it's been really interesting to see what you've been doing, and it's been really inspiring. And I suggest that anybody that's out there that's trying to get anywhere finds somebody that they can resonate with as their accountability partner, because it really helps you stick to the process it gives you somebody to compete with as well in a certain way. It's a fascinating thing. So how have you been getting on in the past year? What's happening with your property stuff, Jon?
Yeah, I've been good. Just that point on accountability partners, I think that you definitely hit the nail on the head there, and it's made a real big difference for me. So I had a mentor the prior year. Again, it's a small world. It's the same mentor that you've got at the moment. So we had a mentor the prior year, which was good. And then one of my goals at the start of this year was to get an accountability partner, someone to sort of clicked with. And I saw, even before this, I saw that you'd posted up some of your goals online, and I thought, wow, God, that's very brave. Sharing that is very, very honest. I thought, I'm not too sure if I'd do that, especially coming. I've always been of the mindset that, keep your cards close to your chest and be careful what you're doing, and maybe it's from my background that not to share too much information. So it's been a bit of a mindset shift to share stuff like that, especially to your sort of personal stuff and numbers and what your goals are. But when I saw you do that, and I thought, number one, I thought that's brave, and then number two, when I actually read the goals, I thought, wow, bloody hell, that's quite impressive. I wasn't even thinking about, I'd got mine written down. Number one, I wasn't thinking about sharing them, and number two, I thought, oh, hang on a minute, I'm gonna have to up my game a bit. If you're saying that you're going to raise X amount, mine was only half that. I thought, I was not going to. I'm going to have to do at least the same. That's so that inspired me to up my goals a little bit more and to share them as well. So make myself accountable not only to myself but to everyone else. So so thanks for that. And then one thing led to another, and we've been speaking on a regular basis.
Yeah. How do you find having publicly declared your goals? Have you found that any of them have just happened, or that you've made progress to them without much effort, or do you have to break them down and pursue them?
Yeah, so it's one of those things, isn't it? They sort of just happen, but it's like Gary Player. The more I practice, the better I get.
Yeah.
They do happen, but there is a lot. There's work behind it, and I've always found that it's just small, being consistent in small steps every day. So having the end goal is good to focus on, and breaking it down into smaller chunks. But all I do is just little things every day, and then at the end of the week or the end of the month or whatever, I look back and I always think to myself, oh, I haven't really done very much, or it's been, I'm frustrated, or I should have done more, or I should have done this, should have done that. And I look back and think, oh, hang on a minute, I've actually, I've met that goal already, and it's, it's only halfway through the year, or, I'm pretty close to this one. So I think it's definitely consistency, breaking it down into small chunks, and then consistency. That's the secret for me.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I break them down, I work towards them. But then stuff that I might not be necessarily concentrating on seems to float into view. And I think maybe if I hadn't declared them, that I was interested in them, I wouldn't have seen the things floating into view previously.
Yeah.
But I think when you actually write something down, it forms a contract with yourself. And then your subconscious sees things that you wouldn't otherwise have seen. And I do believe that's certainly, I've noticed that definitely this year.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to have them written down. I've got them in front of me, look at them every day and just think, what more do I need to do now? What can I do to?
Do you mind me asking how you're getting on with your goals?
Yeah, I'm good actually. I've pretty much, I've got them written down. I've got my reading glasses on, so I can't actually read them from here.
We don't need to know specifics, but are you?
No, I'm cracking on with them. I've got some business ones and some personal ones, and I'm well on track to having them all done by the end of the year. So that's encouraging.
Yeah, and the other thing about, I mean, you said there that you saw mine and thought, my God. I mean, part of the reason I tried to set them was because if I make progress towards massive goals, it's likely that progress will beat the progress I would make if I made smaller goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole 10x thing. It's
exactly that. Yeah, aim for the moon and you might get above the trees, but aim for the top of the trees and you might not get anywhere, type of thing.
Yeah. It's good. That's getting out of your comfort zone as well. That it's easy to set a goal that you're going to achieve. It's that again, back in the working environment, always, set your goals, you're going to achieve them, and then come the end of the year, oh look, I've done this, that, and the other, great, and then you get paid. As opposed to when you're doing it for yourself, you actually want to push yourself and make sure that you achieve a bit more than you think you were capable of.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was thinking about last night, actually. So last night I was at a networking event. The first one I've been to for a while because of the other stuff that we'll talk about. And the opportunity that just comes about by being active. So I do believe that activity generates opportunity. If you go out and meet people for a particular reason, they'll mention something that could lead you down a different path. And had you not made the effort to do that, you would never have seen that opportunity.
And it's almost like linking separate conversations as well. So you may have had an opportunity to buy a property that you're sort of scratching your head, and there's a deal to be done there. It's a good price. It's a good place, but based on your current strategy or based on the market at the moment, it doesn't actually work that well. But then from another conversation, all of a sudden it opens up another opportunity. I know one of the ones I've recently had is corporate lets. So I've got a serviced accommodation, and someone else posted up about relocations. So there's the big companies who are looking for 6 to 12 months lets for fully furnished, but they'll take the property on for executives who are moving into the area, who need somewhere to stay, who don't want to stay in a hotel. So perfect. So especially now when things are calming down after the summer period, so there's going to be some voids or some breaks. So is that an option to explore? Not something I'd thought about before, because it had always been, because of the location, it had just been weekend visitors, and then any bookings during the week are really the profit. So the weekend pays for the bills, the mortgage, etc. And then during the week bookings are what makes the profit. So I hadn't really thought about it, but then once I started thinking about, things are slowing down, and the market has definitely been a bit tighter than it has in previous years. So that was something that sort of connected the dots, and I'm exploring at the moment.
I would strongly recommend exploring that. We, because of the location of ours are mainly corporate lets, really. So we've just had 2 of ours taken for 6 months. So 2 properties taken for 6 months by the same company. So no voids, all direct booking.
So you're not even paying the online travel agent, and that's great.
Correct, yeah. Self-managed. So that's 2 of our properties, and then we've got another one that's had somebody in it for 6 months as well. But it's all because of what's going on in the area and like the connections that you make. So this particular person that's took 2 properties for 6 months, they came, visited us, and then I kind of messaged them and started saying, if you ever coming back, let me know, I'll do a direct deal with you, etc. And it's repeat booking that's blown up into this. So it's,
well, that's taking it to the next level, isn't it? When you hear all of the experts in serviced accommodation talking about the direct bookings are the holy grail, because then you get to have the person's details. You don't pay any extra fees. You can deal with them directly. It's especially a big corporate like that. It's trying to find your way into the decision maker who's actually doing the bookings for the various staff, etc. Then once you find that, then it's you're sorted. Then it's the more of a case of supply is the limiting factor, that you've only got a certain number of places. How can you find some more?
Well, that's why you have to have a full pipeline, isn't it? Speaking of which, you've just finished your property pipeline for now, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, that was one. So one of my goals was I was busy buying properties in 2020, 21, 22. Then I had some slowed down a little bit, sorted a few out. So my strategy is to buy places that need a bit of work, add some value through refurbish, title split, or what have you, and then rent them out, refinance, pay my investors back, and then move on to the next one. So I sort of got a bit of a backlog with the refurbishments, and had a couple of problem tenants. So that was my goal. One of my goals for this year was to sort that out, basically. And I had to evict two tenants, one who wasn't paying their rent, the other one who was, I don't think really should have been living by themselves. So that was a hoarder, and the place was in a terrible mess. But I'd bought the place like that, and the price was reflected. But once we got in there, it was absolutely awful. I think he must have been smoking at least 60 cigarettes a day. The thick nicotine on the wall. The painter said that's the worst place he's had to do. I think it took 7 coats to get the yellow off the walls. But that's all finished now, so that's ready to be rented out. I've had a couple of the usual headaches. So a couple of people have let me down, said they take the place, then change their mind, the usual stuff. So I need to get that back listed. But at least it's in a state now where it can be rented, and it's all good to go. So yeah, so everything in my current portfolio is now all up to scratch. So yeah, in a state that I feel happy renting it. In fact, it's funny. One of the people who came to look, they came recommended from the couple who live upstairs in this block of flats. So he came round, and he was very enthusiastic, and said, look, if either it's going to be myself who will come and live here, myself and my wife, and we want to relocate because he's a doctor. We live here, we work in the hospital. We want to be close by. Fair enough. Or my cousin's studying, so she could potentially live here as well. So it'd be one or the other. So I said, okay, that's fair enough. Bearing in mind, it's a one bedroom flat. It's not huge. It's got a separate bedroom, bathroom, and then a lounge with a sort of kitchen off the lounge. So then the next thing was, so he didn't want to live there himself, but he said, "Oh yeah, but no problems, I'll take it because my cousin will live there." I said, "Okay, well that sounds fair enough. Just send me details, and I'll do the credit check and what have you." And then he sort of said, "Oh yeah, and it'll be he said them," and I was thinking, "Oh, I've better just clarify this. This sounds a bit strange." And I said, "When you say them, how many?" He said, "Oh, 4 people." What are you talking about? The place it's a 1 bedroom flat. You can't have 4 people living there. And he said, "Don't worry, it'll be absolutely fine. They're all students."
Oh God!
I don't think so. I think you'd be pushing it for 2 people. Never mind. So he's reconsidered now. So I need to put the advert back up.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming back to the comment about the dodgy refurb in the hoarder. So I'm not sure I've told you about this, but we've agreed to buy a property from somebody, and he was showing us some of his other stuff. And we walked into this one. He said, "This one, I bought this one," and when I came to view it, the first time I came to view it, there was a funny smell. So we went into the top bedroom, and there was a body on the floor that had been decaying. And they took the body away, and there was a fat outline around the body because it had been there that long. So anyway, I bought the property at a good price, and when I got the lads in, the juices had dripped down the walls, and the lads was scraping the wallpaper off, almost vomiting. And I said, "Oh, it's the stuff that they used to hold the wallpaper paste on with." It's the old-fashioned wallpaper paste. That's why it smells like that.
Just don't let it splash on you. Keep your mouth shut. Oh my God.
Anyway, there we go.
That's grim.
That is pretty grim, but that's property.
Yeah, go say the smooth with the rough.
Absolutely, yeah. Hey, and the other one that you've doing something now that I desperately want to do, and that's like a mixed commercial resi unit that you've got.
Yeah, so I agreed a couple of places at the start of the year. So I wanted to. Another goal was to increase my cash flow. So I agreed the purchase of a mixed-use building. So it's got a restaurant on the ground floor, and then it's got 3 flats upstairs. So that completed a month or 2 ago, and I've got another block of 4 flats as well that's just going through now. So yeah, so I haven't done a mixed use building before, so that was a bit of a learning experience. There's quite a few nuances as it was going through the conveyancing. As to I didn't realize there's a rule around the amount of residential versus commercial, and whether then depending on what it is, the tenants have the potential to be able to buy a share of their lease, which I didn't really know about. Luckily it worked out okay, so it didn't impact me. But again, another thing you need to be aware of, all these little things that you're oblivious to until it actually could potentially be a big issue.
Mm.
So so that's all going through, and it's a pretty good tenant. It's a local pizza restaurant, small chain from North Wales. So good quality food. They're expanding. Good. I've met one of the guys, really nice guy. So and they've got a 10-year lease, which they're 18 months into, I think. They've done some work themselves. So they've I think they're originally on a 5-year lease. They built a big extension on the back of the property themselves. So they've done all that work. So I think based on that, they're pretty committed to it. This was the first one of their shops, their restaurants, and they're in the process now of doing a little bit of a restructure. So they want to change the lease from being in the owner's name into their limited company. So just going through what the how that process works, how you assign the lease, and whether it needs to have a personal guarantee or extra deposit and what have you. So that's going through. So again, another interesting thing to learn about. And and then the flats need a bit of work. So hopefully a couple of the tenants qualify for the grants. So we've had an inspection done. So hopefully that'll be funded to get new storage heaters and get insulation. So, and then they need generally tidying up. So it's
so why was the owner selling then? What was the story there?
Retiring. So they bought the place in 1980 or something like that. Actually, I went around, so it was a bit of the whole conveyancing process, as always, was a bit of a nightmare, and there was quite a few questions that came up, and it took a long time to answer them. But once it had all gone through, I actually got in touch because I was trying to find out the names of the tenants, and that was a nightmare. So I managed to get in contact with the vendor herself. So I popped around. They live up in the sort of countryside. So I popped around, had a cup of tea, and she filled me on the details. And they bought the building, I think, in 1980, something like that. And she'd operated a shop out of the ground floor for quite a while. And then they'd actually done the conversion themselves. And they were just retiring. They just wanted to. They'd owned a couple of properties in Llandudno, where it is, and they'd sold one already, and this was the second one they were selling. So they're heading off.
Do you mind me asking? Is it? And I'm asking this for a kind of, it's a leading question. Is it an all money out deal this for you, or will it be?
I'm hoping it will be. Yeah, it's
right, okay.
That's an interesting one, because it's the plan. It's unusual because the majority of Llandudno is all leasehold. It's owned by Mostyn Estates, so they've managed to they were the ones that originally developed the whole of the centre. And when you drive into it, you'll see it's an absolutely beautiful little seaside town with all of the various guest houses and hotels on the seafront. They're all similar, and they're all nicely painted, and it's quite high standard, and it's kept its character, as opposed to some of the seaside resorts along the coast have not done so well. And part of the reason for that is because Mostyn Estates own the freehold, so they have a lot of control as to what you can do with these properties.
Right.
But this is one of the few that it's the freehold. So, and that's one of the things that attracted me to it. So the benefit of that is that now I've bought it, so I own the freehold of the block, so I can actually split that out. So I can split the restaurant, get separate financing on that, and then split the individual flats and get those and then refinance those as individual properties, rather than having to get one single loan, either commercial loan or a multi-unit freehold block loan, where they don't tend to value up as high and the interest rate's higher. So that's so hopefully. But then I was sort of thinking about this, and I've got 2 or 3 long-term investors at the moment, so I'm not desperate for the cash. And if I was to refinance the restaurant, rates are pretty high at the moment, so I'm happy to keep that, so I suppose, unencumbered, but with investor finance on it, and then I'll refinance the flats themselves, and then that will pay back the other investors I've got. So I think potentially, yes, it will be all money out, but probably not, because I think I'll just keep the restaurant ticking over until rates come down, and I've got a bit of flexibility around that. That's my plan anyway.
Yeah, fascinating. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be an all money out deal, which is why it was a leading question. But you kind of came on to what I wanted to kind of touch on, which is, now that you're experienced, now that you've got a cash flowing portfolio, do you find that you can do deals in ways that you couldn't necessarily do when you first started in property, where it was very important, and it's very important to everybody just starting out, that you get the vast majority of your money out of every deal as you move along. Whereas certainly for us, I don't need to get all the money out every time now, because you kind of you bankrolled by your portfolio to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Have you noticed anything like that in the way you can approach deals now?
So yeah, so that's an interesting one. I think when I first started, I had a sort of a pot of money which was my savings, and so I knew and I wasn't so wedded to get all of my money out. I sort of heard about these deals where you could potentially so all your money out means that you buy somewhere for X amount, let's say 100,000. You do some work on it, which costs 10,000. So all of a sudden, so it owes you 110,000. You then revalue it, and it's gone up considerably in value. So up to the extent that when you go to remortgage it, the mortgage amount, so 75% of the total value, is equal or greater to the amount that you've spent. So in effect, you've got you get your money out from the refinance, and then it just leaves you with that equity in the deal locked in. Quite often it means that the refinance won't be quite as much as the money you've spent, so you have to leave some money in, which is the norm. So I would always sort of have in my mind that I wasn't expecting to get all my money out. So the first two or three that I did, the first couple I did, I've left some money in. They were 2 HMOs, and I've left not a fair bit, but decent chunk in, basically, as I bought it with 25% deposit, which was my savings. But then I very quickly realized that that's not sustainable. I can't grow because I've spent all the cash, basically.
Yeah, you run out of money very quickly if you
exactly. So then the choice then is to either pause for a while, and then if you're working, then you can carry on working, build up your savings again, and then go again, which is, I suppose, the historical way that people think about buy-to-lets, that you buy a buy-to-let once every 5 years, whatever it is, once your savings have been built up, and then you sit there and after a while you accumulate a small portfolio. Or the other thing you can do is you can raise finance, and you can borrow, you could borrow money off someone, and then you could use that to then move on to the next one, which is the route that I went down. And around the same time, I suppose, you say by chance, but it's probably from being active and probably from telling people what I was doing, I found a block of flats which I wasn't really aware of, the whole concept of the title splitting thing. And that worked out. Actually, on the first one, it didn't work out that well, because the valuation I got wasn't great. But the theory was sort of the seed was sown, and I could see how it would work. And so again, there you're not only adding value by doing a refurbishment, but you're adding value through splitting the titles. So you get a freehold block. So in this case, it was 3 flats in a block. It needed a whole load of work doing to it. And that's actually one of the ones I've just finished now with the guy who was the hoarder. So that's block's all done now. It's been painted outside. All the things that I've been putting off until he moved out have all been done. So the place is we will be fine now for the next 10 years or so, apart from sort of minor maintenance. So and then I worked out the concept learned about it, read up on it, that the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. So if you think about, you buy somewhere for 200,000, 3 flats for 200,000, and the average, the average cost of one flat is 100,000. By splitting it, you've generated some additional value there, and that's what I did then. The flats were not valued as high as I thought, so I had to leave some money in. But again, I was sort of accustomed to that, because I was I hadn't had any of these deals where you get all your money out, so it wasn't so much of a problem, and I'd sort of priced that in. But then when I went on to do the next one, then that was an all money out deal, and I sort of benefited from doing the refurbishment and splitting the titles, and then the valuation was very favourable as well, because it's a different area. The first one was in Chester, the second one was in a small place called Ross-on-Sea, in a really nice little seaside town, and that's demand there is crazy, and the prices generally tend to be a bit higher, so compared to other places in North Wales. So that was a great one.
I mean, multi-unit freehold blocks, I'm a big believer that they are if you can combine them with a high income strategy as well, they are definitely one of the keys to kind of, certainly for us, we've got a multi-unit freehold block that we use as service accommodation, and it has done really well ever since we got it. And if I could, I'd buy loads of them, because they're such a really good product, and nobody really wants to buy. It's not sexy buying a block of flats, is it? You know,
Yeah.
if you imagine the houses that you're going to buy, they'll all be lovely, either 3-bed semis with bay fronts, or there'll be little small detached things with nice gardens, and those are the ideal, you know, the dream houses that people would want to buy. But actually, it's a business, and the ones that make the most money, I find, tend to be multi-unit freehold blocks. I think it's a fabulous little niche to be in.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a sweet spot between your standard buy-to-let, where it ticks along and you don't make great cash flow, versus, let's say, your HMO, where you make better cash flow, but it's a headache because requires a lot more management. And this sort of sits in between the two, so you get decent cash flow, but you don't have the headache of an HMO.
Yeah, for sure. And you also get kind of, the bills aren't as bad. You've only got one roof. You've got multiple incomes from one title. Whichever way you want to do it, you've got the freedom to do different things with the different units as well. You could even have, do they call them cluster HMOs if you get a big enough block?
Yeah, and then you get around all the good. There's a real planning advantage with those as well. So
so you could have one flat could be a 4-bed HMO, one flat could be a 4-bed service accommodation, and one flat could be a 4-bed buy-to-let. I mean, there's all sorts you can do.
Yeah, totally.
It's a wonderful, and it's only on one title, and that's the trick. And then you get some people are doing amazing title splits where they're able to buy the whole thing cheap enough that when they split the title, the uplift in value pays for the purchase price, and then they just end up with a free block of flats with the income. I mean, there's some really brilliant stuff you can do, but it's finding them.
You need to be careful as well, because there's a lot of nuance to it, and there's a lot of, I guess, places you can get caught out. There's, especially with lending and refinancing and what have you, you need to, a lot of lenders are not keen to lend on multiple units, more than, let's say, 3 units in the same block. So you need to be really watertight on your exit strategy, and I think before going for a big one, you need to have maybe done a smaller one, or at least have your team in place, so a decent broker and a decent solicitor who can handle the splits, and what you're looking for. Because I know I was reading someone talking about one deal that looked great on paper, but there was an issue with the access and fire escapes, etc., and that meant that refinancing was an issue. So, but you would, without knowing about that, it would have been something that you only find out when you come to exit it, and then you stuff then. So you need to be
so you either find out by learning, which is the way that certainly I think you and I have learned our trade, or you leverage by teaming up with someone that's got the experience and either mentors you or joint ventures with you or whatever.
Definitely.
And then one of the things that you've had going on that I did an episode a while ago about lease options, and I'm a big believer that, and I've done lease options myself, and reverse lease options as well, where the tenant buys the property. But a particular way of using lease options is to do something called an assisted sale. And assisted sales on paper, or in theory, can be wonderful ways of building your cash pot. And you've done an assisted sale. How did you find it?
Yeah. It's
another leading question.
It's a great in theory, it's brilliant. That so the strategy is that you find someone who's trying to sell their house, but for whatever reason it's not going to command the value that it potentially could if it had a bit of money spent on it. So you have a legal agreement written down that, with the one that I did, we agreed a sort of a reference price, and then I listed out a schedule of works, the work that I was going to do, which was included putting an extension on the back and refurb, etc. And then that was going to cost X amount. The property would then be sold for the final price. So that final price minus the money that I'd spent minus the reference price, which would go to the vendors, would be my profit. Which sounds great, and did the work and everything, but the problem has come. It's still on the market. So just to support the punchline, the problem came when we just missed the window of the mini budget coming in, and the market's a funny one. It seems like it's very regional. So lots of the people you speak to in Manchester and Leeds and places, the properties are still flying out and still selling, whereas North Wales, where this place is, the market's really slowed down. So I think at the bottom, and again, this is region specific and it's also price specific. So this is a 3 bedrooms / 4 bedroom detached house. So it's at the top end of the price point in that particular area. It's a really nice big garden, etc. But it's one of the more expensive houses, and those are the ones I think that have been hit. So if you want to buy a 2 or 3 bedroom bungalow, those are still flying out around here. You could always be able to sell those, but the houses at the higher end are sticking a bit. So I spoke to the estate. So it's been on the market for quite a while, actually. There's been loads of viewings. Haven't had an offer yet, which is a bit frustrating. We reduced the price once already, change agents, and I spoke to the agent, went into the office, and we sat down and went through all of the Rightmove stats and worked out what else we could be doing, and it's still getting a lot of interest online. So we decided this was a couple of weeks ago, so obviously it's going to be quiet over August, and July are always quiet anyway. So I thought, well, let's see what happens in September. And then we can decide at the end of September, because it's still getting a lot of interest as people, we looked at the stats of people who've viewed the online video, etc., and they've followed up with those. Anyone that's spent more than a minute looking at the videos, they were spoken to on the phone, etc. So we're just waiting now, see what happens. And then I'm hoping that now, with interest rates not going up, that things will quieten down, calm down in the markets. People will have a bit more confidence, have more access to lending. Mortgage products will come down. So fingers crossed it'll sell in the next. Now September's always picks up a bit as well. So next few weeks we'll have a couple of offers, and then we can get it sold.
Yeah, I mean, you've led nicely into something I wanted to ask you about, actually, as someone who's active in the market. What is because there's an awful lot of noise around property at the minute. There's always a lot of noise, but especially in the current market, and there's sensationalist news about, even this week, the news headline wasn't house prices have gone up. The news headline was house prices rise at the slowest rate ever. So they love to be able to spin it, don't they? But so what's your kind of take on where the market is at the minute in terms of prices, availability of finance, what's going to happen with the mortgage rates and base rate? Where are you? If you get your crystal ball out,
depends on whether I'm buying or selling. It's so I'm probably more of a buyer than I am a seller. So in terms of buying, probably slightly cautious. No, there's quite a few people who are still fairly gung ho, and prices aren't coming down. But I'm sort of having in my mind that I think prices are fairly resilient in these pockets. So there's certain areas that are holding up a lot better than others. But from my own perspective, interest rates are the interest rates going up have had a big impact. So I'm paying more for the private investment that I'm taking, so the individual loans that I'm taking on, those are costing me more. When I refinance, the mortgages are costing more, and it's important that you look at the total cost as well. So at present, because the way that the amount you can borrow for a buy to let or whatever is calculated is it's not only based on the total amount that the property is worth, although that's obviously a big consideration, but it's also based on affordability, so the amount of rent that you're getting. So rent's been going up considerably, and it's crazy, especially around North Wales where I'm based. The amount of demand totally outstrips supply, so rent really is flying up. But even so, to make these products affordable, what the lenders are doing is they've put up the rates as high as possible, even way more than the actual that the economics suggests they should be. So they were definitely making decent money on those. But in terms of making them affordable, what they're doing is they're putting the application fees right up. So in certain cases, I think I saw some for 7%. So that's 7% of the amount you're borrowing, which then gets added onto the mortgage rather than you paying it in the repayments. So when they stress test the repayments, that doesn't actually get included. So it's another way for the lenders to make money. And that just, in a lot of cases, I suppose, to the point I made previously on refinancing the restaurant, that I'm not sort of so hung up about getting that refinance straight away because it's so expensive at the moment. And to that point as well, it's so expensive to go on to these term products, which is fundamental to my strategy to buy somewhere for cash, using investor funds, refurbish, add value, and then move it on to a long-term product. So it's it's my sort of bread and butter. But when it's so expensive to go on to a long-term product, it's almost worth, as long as the investors are happy to do this, just to let it sit on the unencumbered, and then once prices come down, then to be able to shop around and to see what happens. And I'm hoping now that the prices will start to come down. Now interest rates hopefully peaked. Be interesting to see what happens, because it's such a trade. It's such a fine line at the moment between inflation and wanting to control inflation and not going into recession. So I personally think inflation is the thing that needs to be controlled, because if that gets out of hand, then it's just everyone suffers, as opposed to recession is obviously not great, but it's almost that's what's called for to an extent, just to calm things down a bit. So I can sort of see the tightrope that the Bank of England are walking, and the fact that these interest rates are such a blunt instrument and they take so long to filter through. So I can I thought my thoughts were that interest rates were going to go up another 25 basis points just to completely put the boot into inflation, and then it would start to stabilize. But obviously that's with inflation coming down a little bit now, then recession is taken a little bit of a lead in terms of what they're worried about. So
it's a balancing act, isn't it?
But skipped around a bit there, but so I think so. I'm still obviously I'm still looking to buy, but I have big considerations now as to what my exits are. Does the rents going up, do the deals stack as it were? Whereas previously, when interest rates and mortgage products were so cheap, then the deal tended to stack because rents were good. Now rents are great, but interest rates are even higher. So I need to be really sort of careful to make sure that deals do stack, and that I've got at least one exit to rely on, preferably two or three, to make sure that if for instance a standard buy to, let's say I buy 3 flats and I rent them out, just standard buy to let, what's the rent going to go to, how much is that going to increase by? If that doesn't quite, if that doesn't look great, doesn't give the return I want, then could I use one of them for serviced accommodation as a way to increase the revenue that way? Is it better just to to refurbish them and sell them on? There's various considerations at the moment.
Yeah, coming back to your point there about the high arrangement fees for these mortgages, so that some lenders, as you say, I've noticed too, that some lenders are trying to bring their rates down, but then they're putting on a salty, particularly on 2-year fixed rates, they're putting on a large arrangement fee at the beginning. And as you say, some of them up to 7%. Now that, as you said, you don't pay that up front, you don't pay it over the time of the mortgage, it just gets added on to the amount owed, which takes you from a 75 loan to value to like an 82% loan to value. And what I think they're trying to do there, especially on the 2-year fixes, is that means that by the time you get to the end of your 2-year fix, your loan to value will still not be 75%. So you're obligated to stay with them and take a further product with them. So they're trying to lock people in to keeping you with them as your lender.
Yeah, totally. There's a few shenanigans around that, the whole loan to value, because the loan to value really dictates what rate you're getting, because it comes down to the security that the lender has over you. So and that's why I'm always a bit suspicious around these down valuations as well. So when you think somewhere's worth 100,000 and the value comes in and says, oh, it's only worth 90, that then in reality, is it worth 90? If you've got some solid comparables that say it is worth 100, but then the bank will only then give you 75% of 90, they've got even more security, but you're still paying for a 75% loan to value loan. Whereas you'd expect, when you look at the sort of the charges, the rates that they're charging, you'd expect a 75% loan to value interest rate to be more expensive than a 65% loan to value interest rate, because the bank's taking less risk, because they've got more, there's more security. And I think that's definitely a driver in terms of how the banks influence the lenders, and the lenders influence the valuers, and what they want to, they get a number that they want. And I've not necessarily got down valuations, and when I do, there's various things you can do, and you hear about people appealing and all the rest of it, and I can't be bothered with any of that. It's one of those things that you just sort of suck it. I personally think I just suck it up and leave a little bit more money in the deal, but move on to the next one, and then we'll see what happens when it comes to refinance. And I'm sort of at the stage now as well where I think you've got the various stages of investing. So the first one is you're in growth period, and then you're trying to pull as much money out as possible and trying to recycle it. I think I'm sort of maybe not quite into the next one, which is the consolidation and trying to reduce your loan to value, but I'm definitely heading towards there. So I'm not so concerned if the loan to value isn't as good as long as it stacks, isn't as good as I originally thought, because then see your repayments are a bit lower as well. So if you're not borrowing quite as much. So yeah, that's where I'm up to with that.
And then just another thing you touched on was about got to make sure the deal stacks, because whilst rents have increased, the payments on the loans or the mortgages have also increased. So the average buy-to-let, the typical buy-to-let may have cash flowed after all costs 250 quid a month, 300 quid a month, something like that. Now the buy-to-let might only cash flow £100 a month, which is a lot less, and is it worth it? And I've had a conversation with someone this week about a particular property, and it's just not worth it. But I think at this moment, property is probably as cheap as it's going to get, really, because inflation has eroded the value of the pound. So whilst the property 3 years ago was 100 grand, it's still 100 grand. So it's actually worth less. It's just the prices remain the same.
Yeah.
And I think that over the next few years, I believe we'll see another uptick in prices. So if you can buy them now and put up with only taking 100 quid a month from your investment, but play the long game, by the time you'll get some capital appreciation and mortgage rates will come down, and that will give you the margin that will increase your income, not necessarily immediately, but in the future. So if you've got big chunks of cash that you can just deploy into the market and be happy, I think you'll have bought at the right price, mortgage rates will come down, and your income will go up, and you'll see the benefits from it. But you've got to be playing a different game to do that, or get them very cheap, I think.
Yeah. And again, a lot of that comes down to the price you buy at. Is so important that if you're paying too much for a place, then that the same thing will happen, but it will just take a lot longer, and you need to weather the storm, because all of those you hear a lot about buy-to-lets. When interest rates are low, you're making £250 a month and it's ticking over. You need a lot. Obviously you need a lot of buy-to-lets to generate a decent income. But then when that only goes down to £100 a month profit, or maybe even a little bit less than that, all it takes is for the boiler to break, or something to happen, and then that's it. That's the profit wiped out for a whole year. It's gone. then you're doing it for free. Then it's okay. You've got your capital appreciation, but you sort of question what you're doing with your life when you're
absolutely
chasing around sorting out block toilets, and you're not going to make any money. It's
One of my pals has got quite a large portfolio, and he came off his fixed rate, and the rates were 3% when he fell off the fixed rate, and he was expecting the rates to come down, and the rates have just carried on going up. So he's stuck on a standard variable across a huge portfolio, and he's struggled a bit recently because of that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
but that's the bank standard variable as well. Which is seriously high.
Yeah, exactly. So when you've got tens and tens of units all on standard variables, it's it's a bit challenging. But these are the business decisions. Speaking of which, you've had a little interesting journey away from property, I believe.
Yeah. So property is what I spend some of my time on, and then the rest of my time I'm fully into business acquisition, which again is something that I'd sort of had in the back of my mind for a few years. I'd always thought, owning a business would be great. Didn't really know much about it. Didn't know how you actually acquire a business, whether it's even possible or not. Or I always thought that obviously people do it, but I'd always been, I suppose it's similar to property, that what you don't know is you don't know. There's a whole difference between buying one buy to let every 5 years and building your portfolio that way versus raising investor finance and doing various options and doing this, that, and the other, and various strategies. And it's once you start reading up about things that you actually learn about them. And I think it was a conversation with yourself that when I saw you were talking about buying a business, and I was, that's interesting. I wonder what that's all about. And I sort of had read a little bit more about what you're talking about, and we had a chat about it. And it turns out, same as anything, that there's a whole, once you scratch the surface, there's a whole world out there that you didn't know existed, which is again similar to property. So trying to find businesses that aren't necessarily up for sale at the moment, but the owner is looking to sell at some point, whether that be retirement or they're being squeezed for something. Maybe their lease is going up and they don't know how they're going to afford that, or they've got a company that isn't doing so well, but could potentially be turned around. There's a whole load of different things, which I upon reading a bit more found it just as fascinating as property. So it's something that I've jumped into with both feet.
And how's it going? Have you got anywhere with anything?
It's good. Yeah, it's good. So we both signed up for this sort of I guess mentorship type course to take you through the basics. So there's a defined process that's tried and tested, which again I didn't believe at all when I started doing this with property, and people were talking about, you just wrote the whole direct to vendor DTV it's called, and you just write to landlords, write to property owners, and then you buy their property from them, and it doesn't even go near the estate agent. And I thought, you send out a whole load of letters and you get replies, and I thought, what an absolute waste of time. complete nonsense. So to the point that I thought, right, I'm going to show, a couple of people have said to me, this is what you need to do. I said, right, I'm going to show them. I'm going to send out a whole load of letters. I'm not going to get any replies, and it'll be I'll be able to say I told you so. So I did it, and I just got inundated. This was during lockdown, and I inundated landlords. Are you interested in buying my place? Yeah. Well, what about this? When can you come and have a look? And that's what all the estate agents were closed at the time. So it was I think I hit the perfect time. But it's a similar thing with businesses. That there's hundreds of thousands of businesses out there with a percentage of those the owners will want to sell, but they have they don't have any succession plan. They don't have anyone they can pass it on to. Maybe they have children who aren't interested. They've got they don't have that. They don't have any business partner, what have you. So they're employing people. They've got a good solid business that's making money, but they just don't know what to do with it. And they want they can see that they can't go on forever. They're spending 50 or so hours or whatever they're doing and working in their business, but and they can't see any way out. And potentially they're getting some headaches at home. So, you've been doing this for 30, 40 years. When are we going to go on the cruise? When are we going to retire? When are we going to actually start enjoying ourselves? When can we spend more time with the grandkids? All this sort of stuff, all these questions that people are talking about every single day. And what can they do? How can they actually release the money that they've got in the business, which is one big concern. But it's also, and this is something I've come to appreciate, that if you spent your life, 30 years or whatever it is, building this business, and you've got a team of people who have, you've employed for a long time, who's going to look after those? One of the options is, you just close the business down. But what happens to the people that you've got working for you, your customers, who've become, friends over that period? And that's a real sort of strong argument to say, I'm interested in buying a business. Would you consider me, to be, I suppose it sounds a bit corny, but would you consider me to be worthy to take it on and to keep up the, the standards that you've been building over your sort of working life? So yeah, and there's a whole load of people out there who are in a similar situation, who don't know what to do with it, who don't know how they can exit their business and keep things going and not just turn a decent going concern into nothing.
Yeah, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the figures are that something like 80% of all businesses never end up getting sold. So the owner founds the business, starts it off, grows it, it's their livelihood for 30, 40, 50 years, and then they don't know what to do at the end, so they wind it down or close it.
Yeah.
Whereas if there are people out there that can come along and give them some money for that business and look after their staff, and it's an attractive proposition, and there's not many people that are willing to do it.
Yeah, because it's interesting as well. There's so many comparisons between the business acquisition and property that within property, you have estate agents who match buyers with sellers, but it's a lot of there's estate agents on every high street. Everyone who's ever bought or sold a house has had some sort of contact with estate agents. So everyone knows what an estate agent is. But on the business side, there's brokers who do the same job, which I think are not very, not many people are familiar with what they do, and I don't think they do a very good job either.
No.
Yeah, they promise the world. It's a very one-sided relationship. So someone selling a business will go to the broker. The broker wants to get their business because the person selling gives them a fee. The broker will tell them it's worth X amount, which is more often than not overpriced, so they can win the business. They get the fee, and then it sits on the broker's books for X amount of time. The broker says, "Oh no, sorry, we haven't had much interest. Nothing we can do about that." And then the person the seller loses interest, gets disheartened, and thinks that they'll never be able to sell it. So I think it's probably a better comparison between commercial surveyors and commercial estate agents, who I think operate along similar lines, versus your sort of high street estate agents who have to work a bit harder for their money. Whenever dealing with commercial estate agents, they seem a lot more laid back and a lot more, the place will sell itself. If anyone's interested, they'll come to me, rather than actually having to do a bit of legwork and get somewhere sold. So it's a good comparison.
Yeah, I've had a few dealings with business brokers over the past 6 months, and what puzzles me is that, so I do direct to vendor only. I don't ever bother a broker, and quite often you'll go direct to a vendor and somebody will receive one of your communications and they will give it to their broker to deal with. So the owner of the business won't contact you directly. It will be the broker that contacts you and says, "You've expressed an interest in this business. We've got your communication. Let's chat." So you end up going through the process. And on at least one occasion, I've got to a point where I've negotiated what is a fair package for the business. And then the broker, rather than thinking, right, okay, we've got someone here, I'll get my commission from this, the business is sold, there has been no other interest up until this point, the broker will put a spanner in the works, or a stick between the spokes of the spinning wheel, and just scupper the deal. And I don't understand why they're doing that. Is it because they're holding out for an even bigger offer and their commission will be higher? I just don't.
It does make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's very frustrating
Yeah.
when you put, because I don't know about you, but have you found that you put a lot of time, effort, energy, and sometimes emotional commitment into doing this? And there are numerous points down the road where the cycle of emotions, oh, it's going great. Oh my God, it's going terrible. Oh, it's going great again.
Oh,
And it's a bit of a roller coaster, isn't it?
totally. Yeah, totally. I think it's that's the one thing that they say is to keep an active pipeline, and I think that probably goes some way to mitigate that. That if you've got lots of lots of potential deals on the go, you've got lots of people you're speaking to, each one is not so important. Whereas if you've only got one or two, then that sort of that magnitude's ramped up. So anything that's sort of small things that happen tend to get magnified, and you sort of, oh God, it's everything's great. Oh no, everything's horrendous. Oh, everything's great again. Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm definitely like that. It's my life every day is a roller coaster.
Yeah, and I've definitely found that third parties that aren't privy to the negotiation like to stick their oar in as well.
Yeah,
I had one company I was very confident I was going to buy, and the guy brought an associate with him who ended up being an accountant who was very skilled. In this meeting, this accountant was so skilled. Like I sat back and looked at him as he's framing questions for me and like taking what I've said and spinning it and giving it back again. And I thought, my God, you've done this before. Do you know what I mean? But ultimately, I thought the guy was quite happy with the deal. They disappeared, and then I got a communication. Actually, such a buddy says it's not right, so I'm not happy. Um, so third party, there's so much. There's more to it in terms of acquiring a business because there seem to be more competing interests than when you're buying a property. That's
yeah,
definitely something I've
definitely.
noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think accountants, you touched on it there. Accountants tend to be the ones who have an opinion and think that they're they're advising their clients, and they obviously want to get the best deal for them, which is understandable. But some of the stuff that they suggest is not commercial at all, and I don't think they necessarily think about that. When I
Yeah.
originally started looking for businesses to buy, I was interested in actually buying accountancy practices. That was one of the sectors on my list. I've got a sort of an accountancy background, and that's what I spend a fair bit of my career working with accountants and doing that type of job. So I'm pretty familiar with what happens, and speaking that language and being around that environment. So it didn't faze me at all. But I was warned at the start that accountants can be quite difficult to deal with, and they tend to have, generalizing, but tend to have quite a high opinion of themselves and what they're doing. So I sent out my letters, had quite a few responses, went to some meetings, and in general they were not challenging, but exactly what that advice was rang true. There's an industry standard with, and this again, this is one of the things I find quite interesting, that there's quite a few sort of set things. You think to yourself, I want to buy a business, and then you find a business, and how do you value it, and how do you do this, that, and the other. And there's you're not the first person to have done this. So there's various there's set standards that these things go by. And within accountancy, there's a standard that they have a concept of gross recurring fees. So basically, the fees that they get in. So, and that's how businesses are priced. So they vary between 0.8 times the gross recurring fees for a sort of a basket case accountancy that, or maybe an accountancy that hasn't been automated at all, that still has people bringing boxes of receipts in and that sort of stuff, or your accountants out on the road going to visit clients and spending all their time explaining this, that, and the other, or spending a lot of time chasing payments, all that sort of stuff. So that's at one end, up to around 1.2 times of the fees, which is you're all singing or dancing, automated accountant that's all on the cloud, that's all set up with direct debits, that's super efficient. But obviously, when you go and chat to accountants, they're all aware of this, and they think their accountancy, no matter what state it's in, is worth 1.2 times. So you've almost got to start negotiating from there, and then it becomes a bit personal as well when you sort of say, well, hang on a minute, 1.2 times is for the best accountancy in the region. And there was, yeah, well, what's your point? As you look around, an office with stacks of papers everywhere, and a broken old photocopier in the corner, and someone who's called in sick that day, so
An
that
abacus.
payroll's not going to happen. All that sort of stuff. He's sort of, oh, okay, this is going to be challenging. So so I didn't really. I sort of got to the point where I had a 2 or 3 discussions that progressed, and a couple of meetings, but I just couldn't get the numbers to stack, because either they weren't making enough money to justify the fees, or there wasn't a team in place, and there wasn't the infrastructure to be able to grow the business. So I sort of pretty much left that now. I've moved on, and I'm making a bit of progress in the manufacturing sector. That's my
yeah.
goal.
So what's your kind of long-term plan then? Assuming the business that you're involved with at the moment goes through, what's your plan? Is that gonna be it? Are you gonna try and grow that, or are you gonna try and what's your long-term goal?
So I found, I don't want to say too much, because it's still in the sort of the stages of negotiation. But I found a really good, rock solid business that includes a sort of a consultancy type company, but it's also got property as well. So it sort of ticks a few boxes, and there's plenty of room for development. So it's got three streams of income, all 3 of which can be increased, and that's my goal as well. So we've built a really good relationship with the owner, who's started the company from scratch 30 odd years ago, has put his life and soul into it, built up a really sort of good reputation in the industry, and is now looking to retire. So I'm hoping that we can do a deal, and then I can take over, and then grow the business as we've discussed.
Yeah, brilliant, amazing. And who'd have thought at kind of Christmas time you'd be in these discussions?
I know. It's amazing. It's crazy, isn't it? And I suppose it comes down to just keeping your eyes open, telling people what you're doing, and because I hadn't really got. I can look at it now. I haven't got purchase a business down on my goals, so it's that's come out in blue. I didn't think I'd be in that in this situation at all. So it's nice.
Brilliant. Yeah,
that's the way it's developed.
Yeah, one of my goals this year was look into buying a business. That was.
Yeah. I think you can tick that off then.
I think I can. Yeah, I've definitely looked into it. And I mean, just before we finished, I mean, that has impacted on lots of things, because people I have quite good deal flow. I get quite a lot of responses, and I'm busy with it. And people don't understand just how much time it takes to follow each lead to a point where you can make a decision. And initially I found it really difficult, because I was emotionally invested in some of these things that I was getting involved with, and I could see myself running it, and I had visions of the future, and then they don't come off, or they're not right for whatever reason, and you spend hours and days and weeks of your time doing this, so it kind of pulls you away a little bit from other stuff that you're doing. But yeah, I'm so thrilled for you though, because I know how much time and effort you've put into this one, and I just hope that it progresses for you, because it's a cracker.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's been good. It's been good as well to sort of share this as well, and to go through the process, and I suppose motivate each other and give each other a bit of a kick
Definitely.
when it's been needed. It's definitely. I don't think I would have even found out about this if we hadn't have had a chat all those months ago, and then started doing the training. And it's amazing how quickly you develop, and how interesting it is as well. It's a whole whole new subject that
it's fascinating, isn't it? But you're right. By having someone that you can be honest with and talk to and bounce ideas off, really does help. Because some of it is, I send you stuff all the time, don't I? What do you think of this? What do you think of that?
Because sometimes I read it, sometimes I don't.
Most of the time you don't, you little Yeah, or you'll send me a vague answer. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I know you're
That's
okay.
just copy and paste from the last answer I sent.
No, but it's really useful. So if people want to find you because you're doing great stuff, the obviously I know your stuff, but tell the audience where to find you, where to
Yeah, have a
connect
look
with you.
on Instagram, Fresh Space Living. That's the name of my company. I've another thing that I tried to do over the past, I guess, 12 months or so is to post regularly on social media. So I post a bit of property stuff, post a bit about North Wales, what I'm up to. So yeah, have a look at that. Fresh Space Living. That's the name. That's the name of the company. So and yeah, you'll see some regular updates on the sort of stuff that I'm working on. What I'm up to.
Yeah,
The area that I live in. We were
absolutely.
out last night picking up litter on the beach with the local cubs. That was good fun.
Oh, you see, you're a warm-hearted guy as well, just to put the sickener on it. You're not a cutthroat businessman after all.
Not below the surface.
Wonderful. What an absolutely fabulous conversation. Jon, lovely having you on. Thanks very much again, mate.
Thank you very much indeed. I look forward to chatting again in the future.
Absolutely.
Once hopefully this business acquisition will go through and we can come on and we can do a dedicated chat about that and take you through the
get into the nuts and bolts of it, and
yeah, look forward to that.
That would be great. All right, mate. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye bye.